or for this session, basically it's going to be, you know, share your SAP Business Object challenges, and we'll do our best to answer to them. So make sure that you use the chat box and make sure that they're just related to business objects. So if it's a challenge where you've got a cat in a tree, you know, it's probably not something that we can help. You know, you might want Keith to come over. He can have a look, but probably I can't help. So just feel free, you know, to ask your questions, and you know, we'll see how it goes, and we'll do our very best to answer to all the questions. And if you've got some curveball type of questions, you know, I'm sure Keith will be very, very happy to answer. So, and he's just a little bit knowledgeable. So, Pauline, you might need to help him out. Well, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Well, you know, ladies first.
Okay. Hi, I'm Pauline Lancaster with 360 Suite. So I've been with 360 Suite over 4 years now. And prior to joining, I was a business objects administrator for over 10 years for different federal customers. So I've done lots of upgrades from version 5 all the way to 4.2. Haven't done 4.3 yet. And you know, universe design, Webby design, that kind of thing.
Hello, my name's Keith Johnson. I'm a founding member and Chief Technology Officer for cBEYONData. I've been in the business objects and Crystal Suite probably from the early 2000s. You can see the gray hair. So everything from installations and upgrades from the early days of Crystal Enterprise 8X to current 4.3. So ask away.
So Bernard, Craig, Francis, Gigi, Rajesh, Pauline, Jessica, Leslie, Michael, and all the others, basically feel free, you know, make sure that you ask your questions in the chat box. So I just see one question that arrived so far. So and it's around 4.3. So what can you tell us about 4.3? And by the way, Keith, have you done a 4.3 upgrade, or have you played with it?
So we haven't had a chance to upgrade. It's in the queue probably for the next week or two. We've got an environment we've got teed up. We did a fresh install literally the Saturday after it was released. So that everything went really smoothly. No issues to speak of off the top of my head. The only thing that we did have to go back through and we noticed was we were seeing a number of 500 errors accessing some of the functionality within the CMC. Went back through and realized it seemed like the Tomcat was running out of memory, so we adjusted some of the default settings, and that seemed to have resolved the issues. Overall, our testing with some of the Webby default Webby reports and even some content we loaded in, performance looks really good. It's solid. So far so good.
Pauline, Patrick, so I see Patrick has joined. Patrick, maybe you want to introduce yourself, and good to have you.
Thanks, Bruno, and sorry I'm late. I was just finishing up on another webinar, but I'm Patrick Sims with our P&T Global COE for Analytics. I've been with the company since 2003, so joined BobJ just before the Crystal acquisition. And I'm sure I've met many of you out there, and thanks for having me, Bruno.
You're welcome. Well, we had a question around 4.3. Have you had time to play around with 4.3, Patrick?
Yes, I've been playing with it through the beta, and I got to admit, it was I was a little, when I first started playing with Analytics Cloud, it was sort of an eye-opener for me, but 4.3 is easy because we've kind of harmonized the user experience there. So yeah, I really love what we've done with Webby. I think it might help return that self-service glory back to Webby that maybe some folks have been daunted by because it looked or felt too complex versus really how capable it is.
And how about you, Pauline?
Yeah, I haven't done the upgrade myself. Just gotten some feedback from some of our coworkers, but yeah, I mean, I've used the Fiori Launchpad Launchpad. It's definitely really nice, and I think you're right, Patrick. I think people will like it. I see someone's asking whether to upgrade from 4.2 to 4.3, if it's better to uninstall 4.2 and then upgrade to 4.3, or just upgrade 4.3 on top of 4.2. I don't know who wants to answer that, but I definitely wouldn't uninstall 4.2 because you'll lose your, your I know that answer.
That's the first takeaway, right? Do not uninstall.
Don't install. You can do it in place. Yeah. Yeah, you can do it in place. I don't know. I sort of lean towards setting up a clean server and installing Scratch, but I don't know, Patrick or Keith, you might have a different perspective.
No, I'd agree. You can do the upgrade in place or the side by side. I just think it's a better practice for side by side. And frankly, I look at those opportunities always as means for you to look and make sure that the hardware that you're putting it on is really what you want. So, I look at it as a nice chance to take advantage of that motion.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a way to sort of clean house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Okay. And then there's another question. Would you recommend upgrading to 4.3 SP0, or wait until SP1 or SP2 so it's more stable? That's
There we might have different opinions about it.
yeah.
Well, Patrick, let's listen to you first.
Well, as the corporate representative, I would say, I think SP0 is good, right? It's gone through a long beta process, and it came out with greens across the board. I don't even think there was a yellow left when we went live GA. So, I know there are those who always want to wait till the first service pack. And by the way, the date on that is December. So we're looking at a service pack 1 in December. So it is coming fairly soon. But I would say, I feel kind of good about saying, yeah, you can go to Service Pack 0. But, back to our prior question, in the side-by-side world, it's also a good chance for you to do that and see if you think it handles your load appropriately.
Right, and get your users adjusted, because it's a new interface, right? So maybe
Absolutely.
give them a chance to trial it first and make sure they're.
And to that point, Pauline, I think you mentioned that you've seen the Fiori Launchpad even in 4.2, right? So for those who don't know, since Service Pack 4 of 4.2, you've actually had the ability to use an alternative URL to see the growing path of what is now the de facto BI Launchpad in 4.3, as well as the Webby interactive viewer, which has become a part of kind of just the inherent view or design look and feel. So, even if you don't go to 4.3 right now, I would also recommend maybe turning on or enabling that URL for some of your users, even in 4.2.
That's a good
Not full
suggestion.
parity, but it's an
Right,
idea where we're going.
At least, yeah, exactly.
Keith, would you have any other comments around that, or?
I definitely running in parallel is a great idea, especially for folks that have been on the BI platform or the BobJ platform for a while, just because it is a different look and feel. And how people are just waiting to be cutting edge, right? Everybody wants to be on that bleeding edge of software. Right. No. So just sort of getting used to that new interface, I think that would be running that in parallel for a little bit. Great way for people to sort of kick the tires and get used to it. So totally agree.
Yeah, and the reality is, sooner or later people will need to be upgrading, and we'll need to go to the new interface that I think actually looks pretty good. And of course, for people who got their habits, it's going to be something a little bit disruptive as first, but it's just a matter of time. And the UI, or the way it looks actually so much better. So regardless, it's just a matter of time. And I think to Patrick's point is, and we haven't seen that for some time, but you're right, Patrick, where the beta testing has been actually quite long. I think it's been longer than usual on that, and we've actually been playing with it for some time. So yeah, I'd agree with it.
Yeah, and so someone was asking how do we recommend managing the change from 4.2 to 4.3, and that's a good question. So I think you guys answered it in the last one. Maybe setting up a side by side so users can start to get start using it. I know there's been some. I think there's some. I don't know if SAP has some matrices available to kind of show where the functionality is in the current version versus the new version. I don't know if there's things like that that might help where someone's looking for that.
And we also have set up a virtual tour of 4.3, which it had a live component with some keynotes, but that's fine. Most people don't always like the keynotes anyway. So, but what's left for a year is access to free on-demand content. A lot of that's presentation, but a lot of it is demo, and I think it's bite-sized chunks of demo versus trying to overwhelm you with the fire hose of what the new thing might look like. So I think that could be a useful means, especially if you customers have internal COEs or something similar to that. Maybe do some lunch and learns, but on very pointed parts of it versus trying to overwhelm them.
And by the way, I can say that there's been a high interest in 4.3 because we did an event about a month ago, and we had over 1,300 registrants, and
Right.
really, it was huge to see the attention that people had around 4.3. So a lot of people have long waited for it, and I expect a lot of people will be migrating, upgrading. We can talk about the definitions with these words, but I think migration is a banned word, I think, since 3.1, if I recall, or so.
At least for
Since XIR 2, come on, man.
So,
okay, so we have another question about Craig has his business objects environment there is on VMs and currently on Windows 2012 R2 servers. Any suggestions on how to best migrate to newer server OS?
I think that goes back to, setting up a new system in parallel. Because 2012, you're starting to run out of runway on that, right? So, start looking at either 2016 or even 2019 as your new sort of clean install and migrate over or upgrade over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course you could use 360 to migrate the content, server to server. That definitely works well, gets all your content moved over.
and I see.
And by the way, I
Good.
obviously don't have the document memorized, but the PAM should be out for 4.3 as well if you're looking at different versions. So that's a link that we could probably send at the end of the webinar here.
Also, I see a question. I'm in 3.1. How should I go to 4.3?
There is a mechanism. There is a way to do that, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. We can get back to you on that one, but I think it's not as direct, right? Even 4.0 can go directly to 4.3, but I think we may have to get you from 3x to 4x first.
Yeah, I think you have to go to 4.2 first to then get
I think
to
so,
4.3.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that, Keith? Or
No, I was trying to remember it, and I was going to say I thought on the Bob J Virtual, the virtual roadshow, they had a map of all the different kind of combinations, and I was trying to remember where I saw that last.
Yeah, in fact, Keith, I saw it, that exact thing. That was like the last thing I saw before I shut down the virtual tour this morning. So I know it's there. I just don't remember what it was.
Exactly, and I was trying to remember because it's got two different flows. One sort of the normal path, and then the other one the not so normal kind of path. No.
But actually, I recall seeing that document, and yes, you had to go to 4.2 before that. It was only if you were in 4 that you could go to 4.3. And then if you're in 3.1, you need to go in 4 first. And funny enough, it was we we had a request recently, and actually we worked on an account with you on that, Keith, if I recall, where we had a customer who was in XR2 who wanted to go to 4.2 or who was waiting for 4.3. So that was an interesting.
Oh yes.
It was an interesting case, and and I think well, you know, what's the path if you were in XR2 to go to 4.3? I think.
Well, they were on Desky, so they were also converting Desky to Webby, which was even made it more fun. Yeah.
We saw that recently with a financial institution, so that was quite interesting.
Yeah. So the user that we were talking that was asking about the OS platform, he's actually not doing a side-by-side upgrade, so he wanted to know anything he should pay attention to. So I guess they're upgrading their OS on, you know, on top of business objects. I mean, I would say just make sure you have a good backup.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Actually, I think that's the beautiful thing, though. I think it's the normal rules. Just because it's 4.3, I think it's the normal rules you'd want to pay attention to in terms of what to look for and things like you just said, Pauline, and Keith, I'm sure you had some too. So.
Okay, yep. And he's going to install it, yep. 4.2 on top of 4.3. Okay, yep. Yeah, just make sure you have a backup so if needed, but yeah, it should be not a problem. Okay, we have a question from Craig. We've been testing 4.2 with the fortified Launchpad and noticed slower response times on Webby report refreshes compared to the classic Launchpad. Has this been an issue with other customers?
I think you'll be, once you start to look at 4.3, we noticed the same thing on one or two of our customers. But once we've, again, we were sort of been kicking the tires on 4.3, or at least the GA release. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that, I won't say a lag, but that performance seems to have come back and is equivalent to what you saw in classic Launchpad. I don't know, Patrick.
Yeah, I think I hadn't heard much about it, but ironically, the last couple of weeks, it's popped up as a question in a couple of different venues. So yeah, from what I hear, and the thing to remember too is what you're looking at in 4.2 is not the final product either. It's the growing stages of what ultimately has become the new Launchpad in 4.3. So, you know, the actual Launchpad as it exists in general availability now is still a different animal than what you've been playing with in 4.2. You've just kind of been seeing the, you know, where we're going.
I see another question. We are on 4.2, which is clustered environment, and we're trying to cut down some cores from the current server setup without impacting the current environment. What is the best recommended way to do so? And we have 10K reports run every day with moderate usage by users. So we are.
That's a normal thing I'd rely on you guys for, Bruno.
Do you guys have any?
Can't you leverage a 360 cast for that? Take a little of that, you know, offload that.
It's not made for that. Or I don't know if we got any answer on that, or if we could maybe check on.
Yeah, I would rely
Chris,
on my services guys or you, Bruno. So I don't have that one.
Pauline, do you have any other questions that you see showing up?
Yeah, I don't see any.
I see one around, you know, is 4.3 supporting UNV and UNX, or supporting only UNXs?
Still UNV as well, but I would say, so there's a Java Beans capability in 4.3, but only against UNX. So, you know, SAC does better with UNX. Lumiere has some things better with UNX. So I'd say, you know, we are still shipping with UNV. You're still good to go there, but I would recommend that if you have not started looking or planning your move to UNX, that this might be a good chance for you to do so, because at some point we will get to that point where, you know, the other things you're going to want to hook the universe to will require UNX. So not there yet. Start thinking about
it. And frankly, you know, the conversion UNV to UNX has been going on for years and years.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, guys, you know, if you're still in UNV, just go to UNX. And if I recall, things got a lot better. I think it was since 4.2, SP4 or something like that. It was maybe not as stable before, but I think from SP4 or SP5, I can't remember, but things were a lot better. I think Pauline, you had actually some issues with some energy customers or some regulated industry customers, if I recall. I'm not sure if it was you or Yasmin.
On older versions, yeah.
Yeah. And
Plus, you can get sets.
What's that? I missed that.
You can add sets back into your life that way too, which was great, right? I mean, gosh, I miss Set Analyzer, but when they put it into the universe, I thought that was a cool thing. So.
Yeah, so we have one about Lumiere. So Singaram asked if had Lumiere Designer or Discovery changed in 4.3 in terms of the looks like Webby has?
No. So Lumiere Discovery is as it was, but even there, that was always closer to SAC than Webby had been. So Webby will still be close to it in terms of chart engines, fonts, look and feel, generally speaking. And then Lumiere Designer being more of a, you know, developer's environment anyway, you know, it can produce whatever you want it to produce in a sense, but no facelift changes there.
And correct, right, in 4.3, you know, there is no more Flash basically. So Excelsius is over, Explorer is over.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Excelsius, Dashboard Design, and Explorer both do not ship with 4.3. So, you know, in your 4.2 environments come 12/31 of this year, they may or may not work, but, you know, Flash is no longer supported as of that date. Neither will we support those products anymore.
And are there good ways to convert these to Webby or to SAC? I would assume it's actually SAC. I would assume there would be a better option because Webby's typically not designed for that, I would assume.
Yeah. Explorer is the easiest because, you know, Explorer by itself was always less about kind of content as much as it was the ease of use to get to the data, right? And so the data explorer feature, if you will, within SAC is the exact same interface as you would get in standalone Explorer as a tool. And you have the advantage of not having to generate an information workspace. You know, it can just go against any data model or data set that you have in SAC. So I'd say in many ways, the Explorer use case is better met in SAC than it had been even as standalone Explorer. The dashboard piece is, no, there's no migration tool per se. We do have Analytics Hub as a front end that can, you know, serve as a consumption portal, catalog, library, whatever you want to call it, so that you can have SAC content side by side with object content, and that can include the applications that you've built with Excelsius or Dashboard Design, but there is no pure migration path.
And I'll throw in here is the one thing we've noticed is at least from a lightweight dashboard, I think Webby is also over the last couple service packs has come a long ways as well as a lightweight dashboarding tool as well. Because I mean, a couple of our guys have really done amazing things with recreating dashboards within Webby where you really can't tell. Now there are certain things that, you know, controls and certain things like that aren't supported, but from you know, gauges or look, I mean, they really come out nice, as well as being, you know, having the full features of Webby as well. So, you know, for lightweight dashboards, I would say, you know, maybe take another look at Webby as an alternative.
And by the way, we've got some content around that. And I think in terms of dashboard functionalities at one of the last user groups where, of course, it was physical, Gregory Boticcio actually at the time shared with us some a presentation. It was pretty amazing to see what you could do from 4.2 SP6. And Keith, didn't you guys do a dashboard around COVID?
Yeah,
Was
we
it
did
with
one
Webby
for,
or?
yeah, for one of the federal agencies. Yep, we did. And it had, you know, it had the geo mapping built into it, and it was pretty slick.
And is that something you got offhand that you could show, or just by curiosity, or am I just catching you? It was just an idea. I was just
Being on the spot.
I'm not sure if you really want to do it or not, but
I'll just log into
yeah,
my
you know,
GFE.
I totally agree with that, by the way, Keith. I mean, that word dashboard means so many different things to so many people now. And with their tableaus and clicks, they kind of tried co-opting it for themselves. And so if they can co-opt it, then yeah, Webby's just as good or better than those guys for making self-service light dashboards, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely. With a heck of a lot more analytic firepower.
Yep. And you know, just to go back to the initial question, if you've still got like Excelsius, for example, are there any tools on the market, or you know, what should people do? Because I know, I think we had looked into doing it to try to convert, but it didn't seem to be a very straight, you know, it's just Mickey Mouse. Do you guys know anything, or?
I'm not aware of anything. We ourselves do not have a migration tool for it. But to that point, though, just from a redoing it, you know, we had, you know, at the Army, there were a couple of Excelsius dashboards that they wanted to redo, and they found the quicker way for bigger bang for the buck was to do it in Webby, not in Lumiere or analytic design in SAC. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've recommended as well. But actually, in terms of dashboards, there are some very good functionalities with SAC and with the hybrid capabilities with 4.3. That might be an interesting option there. So
yeah, and you know, analytics designers getting there. You know, they expect parity with Lumiere by end of year, and frankly, when they first said that, I was a little skeptical, but they've gotten so much faster than I thought they would be. So I'm cautiously optimistic now versus skeptical. Probably get shot by anyone who's listening from product management, but.
Does 360 supports 4.3?
We will starting. We have a release coming out in early July, and all of our solutions. Yeah. So is it? Oh yeah, it's next week. Okay. Yes. Oh my goodness.
We are looking for that release.
Yeah, a lot of improvements there, but yeah, 4.3 is one of them. We haven't had any customers go to 4.3 yet, but I know a lot are planning it, so that should be good timing.
Yeah. Are there some new questions coming in, Pauline?
Yep. Okay, let's see. So Francis is asked, he said he noticed the following issue after going from 4.0 and from 4.1, or sorry, 4.0 to 4.1 and 4.2. Multiple tabs reports are opened. An inactive tab will time out while the session is still active. Has anyone experienced that kind of issue? We didn't have the issue in 3.1 because the multiple tabs feature was not available. Working with the SAP support on it, but the issue is very random. So you mean tabs within the Launchpad? Is that what you're referring to? So yeah, so they're opened. Okay. I have never had that issue. I always have tabs open. Not sure. Have you guys
Yeah,
had?
I mean, although we don't, you know, I've for our demos and stuff like that, for you know, for customers, we'll usually have maybe 3, 4, 5 tabs, and really haven't run across that specific issue. But
I know I often have. I mean, I had this morning the demo I was doing. I had probably 20. I just kept opening, and so I had to scroll through. So I mean, I've never had the issue. I don't know. I don't know. Are you on So right now you're on 4.2. What service pack are you on, Francis? I don't know if it's service pack. We're on SP8, but I've again I never close anything, so I always have stuff open, and we've kind of gone through the service packs the past few years. So I don't know.
I see another question. Could you, or until you get an answer. Okay, I see that there is an answer from Francis. Pauline.
Okay, yeah, he was saying, yeah, okay, huh. SP7. Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that. Oh, maybe the load balancer. Oh, could be. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what caused that. We can follow up and see if anybody else has maybe encountered that or someone's heard about that issue.
I see a question: how to set up alert monitoring for schedules, jobs, pending state. Don't know if that rings a bell to any of you or.
Well, 360 Live, you can set up alerts for the different processes and be alerted if something's down, if it's in that restarting state. You can even automate it to if you get an alert saying it's down, but you can also automatically restart it if you want to. So not just getting the alert. I don't know if the monitoring in maybe the monitoring within the CMC will give you that as well, whether the processes are up or down. Possible.
So under 4.3, you've got the BI admin studio now. And I was actually surprised. I was actually sort of kicking the tires on that this morning, but still sort of just, still getting a handle on all the new parts and pieces out there.
I don't see any other questions. You see anything else, Pauline, or?
No, I don't see any.
I see one interesting question. It's not a question, but when is the next happy hour?
I've got one question. And Patrick, I'm not sure if you. So we do a lot of work with data services as well, and that's always one entertaining kind of challenge of the compatibility. Even though we run our data services on a separate IPS system, the compatibility or trying to keep up with the compatibility between our BobJ and our IPS systems there's always a lag, right? So do you have any insight in terms of data services when that'll actually sort of come back up to the same version as 4.3, or is that the holidays or next year? Or
I'm thinking more towards next year myself.
Okay.
I will say this though, as you guys have been around us long enough to know that at one point there was the separation of, the database and data management crowd and the analytics side. We wanted to keep on the analytics side the EIM stack because frankly, we care about it more than database guys do. Actually, I don't know if you've noticed, but Information Steward shows up in the BI Launchpad in 4.3 now as a link to an application. So, I feel like we're regaining some control over the EIM talk track to some extent. So, that's more, internal nonsense than you guys want to know, but at least it's a focal, it's a way for you to look at it. So we are trying to regain that. We are continually sending up the chain in product the importance of EIM, modernizing it that way. So I'd say we'd start to see that clarify at least towards the end of the year and understand what the go forward is. There could be a couple of different outcomes on that, but I'm optimistic that let's bring data services a little more modern forward, like we're doing with 4.3, and keep Information Steward in the mix and as a perhaps even back to more bolted to us like Metadata Manager had been in the past versus Information Steward. So that's at least what a lot of us on the analytics side are pushing for internally.
Awesome. Okay, great.
So guys, I hope that we'll have the next user group physical, I would say in October. I hope that works. I don't know what's your bet, and I hope that we can actually have a happy hour, in October
Absolutely.
around that. So that'll be a lot of fun. So knowing all of you, I'm sure it'll be a good time. So guys, it was really nice from you to be joining and to do this, this session that we've never done something like that before. So it's kind of interesting. So and turned out pretty good. So thank you very much, and have an awesome end of the day and an awesome happy hour after. Just send us some pictures over. I promise we won't share them on social media eventually. Thanks a lot,
Make sure
guys.
you put your Bobsy 4.3 frame up there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. That was put Webby on the cloud.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Don't
Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Bruno.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Patrick.
Pauline.